Hello and welcome to the Random Thought Show. My name's Jacob Tober.
And my name's Durham McInnes. On the show we talk about anything and everything in fitness, high performance and health. Welcome to the show. A very special guest today, my good friend Tennille Hay. Hi Tennille.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming on the show. So much
welcome.
to talk about.
Thanks for having me.
So, you are one of the best S&C coaches I've ever worked with.
Wow.
And I mean, you're the one that got away. You're the coach that I tried to hire here, and you got a better offer.
I did.
And I'm really pleased that you're still at that better offer at Maribrynong Secondary College because that's is that what it's called? Sports Academy, not
Sports
Secondary College.
Yeah.
Because it means it was the right choice.
Thank you.
So that's good. So I wanted to have you on the show just to chat about. I think you've got a lot of wisdom to impart and chat about your story. I think it's a great story. Should we go back to the start? Take me through your uni story. We'll we'll go a little chronological, and then we can get to the we can save the exciting stuff, which includes being because you were the inaugural S&C coach for the Carlton Women's Football Club, which
high performance manager there.
High performance manager, which is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, so we'll get to that a bit later, but let's talk about the journey. So, did you grow up in Melbourne?
I did. Yeah, I grew up actually out in Rowville. I did primary and secondary out at Rowville there, so I grew up out there. And I guess through high school, always loved sport. Sport was huge in our family, and just naturally thought I'd fall into some sort of sport degree. And human movement was the only thing around at that point, so went to ACU. And it's my amateur microphone skills here, isn't it? You're like, come on, let me do it. Did my Bachelor of Exercise Science at ACU, and that's where I met you. You were helping out Ian Anderson at the time doing, I think it was just...
Seems like 1,000 years ago,
Because it was, I think. You're grey and I'm more wrinkly, so...
that was one of my first uni presentations.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known.
Really?
You were like, wow, he's got his shit together, that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not feel like that at all at the time.
It was all smoke and mirrors. You were running, I think, the strength practical in the little...
Yeah, we come in and do just a little practical.
Yeah, just in that little tiny gym.
Tiny little room.
Yeah, which now they've, got an amazing facility there now, but it wasn't like that when I was there.
Yeah.
And I just sort of, I don't know, I didn't really ever know much about strength and conditioning back then. I just thought I'd end up being an EP and that's just what you do, or, you're a trainer at a footy club, that's just, what everyone does. And that's when I was working at Bounce as an exercise physiologist.
Yep.
I just wasn't really super passionate about it. I just
EP, it's an interesting field, and it's great for some personalities. It's a great fit. But I was working at that point. I was working out of Bodyworld most of the time, and then I think once a week I was coming out to work at Bounce. And I must admit, I did see you guys, and I did think to myself, I like my job.
I'd watch you come in and like we were just saying before we went off air, like I was like, his job is so much cooler than mine. How do I get to do what he's doing? I'm just sitting at a desk telling a diabetic to exercise, it was
which
really
is really important, and they really should, but it's making them.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It just, I was just not the right personality for that sort of job.
You've got to have a lot of patience, and patience is a wonderful trait. And I don't have nearly enough of it.
No, me
I sacked the one diabetic that I ever trained.
I've never heard anyone say they've sacked a diabetic.
Well,
classic.
She was morbidly obese and a really smart lady. She was an academic. But
they always are. That's the frustrating part.
Super smart. And she was working in the health sciences space. And I trained her for 6 months, and she just would not change her behaviour. She was eating takeaways every night, and I was like, this person's – and my view was because sacking sounds like I'm just a jerk and I was just getting – but my view was that if I kept going, she'd eventually die, and it'd be my fault because I hadn't achieved any change. And so I kind of said, well, you know what, this is going absolutely nowhere. I'm hating it. She's getting nowhere. I'm just taking her money for no apparent result.
Well, people need to want to change for themselves. You can't hold their hand.
You can't do it. Yeah. So I just said, like, it's not me, it's you. I can't train you anymore because you're not listening to what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Because the blow up was that she'd kept a food diary, and I was like, "You've got to fix this."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, stop trying to control me." I'm like,
wow.
I'm trying to control you away from death."
That's what she's paying you for as well.
Right? Yeah. So it's an important and interesting space, and it needs people with the right skill set for it, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah. No, I'm not as patient or not as nice. I'm just not. Intrinsically a bit of a jerk as well. That's why we end up strength and conditioning coaches.
Don't mind putting people through some discomfort. And so you were saying before off air, and I didn't realise this, that I gave you some early advice that you took to heart.
You did, yeah. I remember, I think I just asked you, what you have to do to be a strength and conditioning coach. And I think this was the prac session at ACU at that point.
Right, yeah.
And we were just running through some exercises, and I couldn't do a chin-up at that point.
Right.
Because I hadn't really even trained at that point, really. And you said to me, if you want to be a strength and conditioning coach, you're going to have to do a chin-up because you're going to have to teach a chin-up. And I was just like, wow, okay, I'm going to do 100 of them. And I literally, that's all I did for ages was just chin-ups. And
that's so cool.
I just did them all the time. And then I remember when I could get 10 in a row, I'm like, I've made it. I've made it.
10's good.
Well,
10's
yeah.
great.
I was pretty stoked. Couldn't do 10 now, but yeah.
You just got to be able to do, my view is you've just, I hope no athletes are listening, but you've just got to be able to do a crisp triple.
If you can triple.
I reckon if you can do a really nice triple of anything,
it
kind of implies you've got another, 7 to 10 in the bank.
Yeah. But you can't just just rough your way through it.
No, it's got to look
you
good.
can cheat your way through a chin up pretty easily, but you got to smooth through it. Smooth chin ups, great thing to see.
Got to look tidy.
Yeah.
Great footage just this week from one of the former interns, Tennille Hay, who owns a business called Redback Fitness.
Yeah.
And she also works at Greensboro. She's got a sports academy sort of thing going on there.
Wow, good on her.
Marnie doing the best chin-ups with perfect scapular depression.
Nice.
It was this morning I saw it on Facebook. I was like, there's some good chin-ups.
Yeah.
So,
and
shout out
did
to
you
Marnie.
claim that and say, I taught her that?
No, I'm not claim it. But a little bit.
Everything I know.
Marnie's awesome. But yeah, that ability to demonstrate, I think that's such an important thing.
Yeah, definitely.
In the interview process here, they have to come along and they have to be able to do push-ups, they have to be able to squat a little bit, run a bit, because I think if you're going to be in strength and conditioning, you have to be able to do strength and conditioning.
Well, it's something that there's something about being able to coach an exercise that you know what it feels like when you're doing it wrong and what it feels like when you're doing it right. Just even deadlifting and getting that tension out of the bar first before you actually lift the bar up, rather than just like yanking the bar up. If you didn't know what that felt like, it's really difficult to coach.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're really handy at Maribrynong, where we have access to so many different coaches. So if I'm...
you've got an amazing team there. It's
not only our phys prep team.
So you got the physical preparation team.
Yeah. So,
how big's that?
There's 7 of us.
Okay.
So the boys and I. Yeah, so there's where's Trent, Toddy, and Cal and Ben. So yeah, I think there's about 7. Yeah, 7 of us.
Big team.
2 rehab. Yeah. And then obviously all the technical coaches as well. We just have access to some of the best coaching. It's ridiculous, and I don't think the students there realise how,
I think that's
good they've got.
That's human nature, is that you're just you adapt really quickly to how good things are.
Yeah, exactly.
We working out of somebody else's gym was really challenging and it was tough.
Because you were there for 10, 15 years? Yeah,
15
ages.
years. Yeah.
And then we sharing it with the general public as well.
Yeah,
you'd have your Saturday morning sessions.
When you came along and we're trying to fit in around everyone,
hectic.
and you're walking around the gym. Does anyone have a 5? Because never enough 5 kilo weights. And then we moved out here, and it didn't take long for a little bit of complacency to set in. And every now and then I'd kind of pinch myself and say, no, we've got our own setup now. This is amazing. But you kind of adapt to it pretty quickly.
You've done an amazing, and you did it at the same time as having a young family as well, which
don't do that.
I appreciate that now with my 18 months, 20 months. I was like, how do people do that?
Full credit to my wife. Kate was amazing, and still is. It's not something I'd recommend. Like, you either want to do it before or you want to do it when they're like 10.
Yeah.
I think when they're single figures, it's
hectic.
It's a crazy idea.
I don't know.
So anyway, so you're at ACU, and then did you go straight to work at Bounce, or was that your first gig?
What did I do? No, I think I travelled for a bit. I think I took a year off.
Yep.
Yeah, I took a year off. Just travelled, and then came back and did postgrad and my masters at ACU.
Yeah, okay.
And then I think that's when I was working at Bounce at that point.
And did you intern somewhere?
No.
Right.
No, I didn't. And I never really had like a, one mentor all the way through. And I think it's something that I've realised now, because for a long time I used to think, I've never had a mentor. Like, that's something everyone has in our industry and you should have. And, I had people like yourself that had a huge influence on me in acute periods during that time, but not really a mentor all the way along. But I've now realised that's okay, and it's actually a really good thing because I've picked up different things, and especially working. I think just working, you just learn. When you're chucked in the deep end, that's just when you learn the most.
There's a lot to be said for, I think, there can be a trap if you have, and it didn't happen to me, but I have seen it happen, where you have a great mentor and you kind of just end up being a mini-me. And whereas if you don't, you're actually going to maintain a better hunger for knowledge.
Yep.
So you're going to be asking better questions, seeking out things. I think that's sort of there's a Japanese religion called Shinto, and Shinto is all about picking different bits from, like, it's an amalgamation of different bits from all different religions. It's kind of this functional religion, just taken bit by bit.
So cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I reckon it's kind of like that sometimes with someone like you, where you've taken the best bits from this person, the best bits from that person, and you end up with your own synthesis of what's great practice, but it's not just come from one spot.
Yeah, and you're not I think one thing you guys do a really good job here, especially with your internship, is not pushing, where how you people pigeonhole themselves as like,
we're a kettlebell company.
Yeah, we just use Swiss balls all day long. That's what we do.
Remember, how old are you?
I am 36 this year.
All right, so you're 10 years younger than me.
Yep.
But you'd be old enough to remember when the Swiss balls just went bananas. Yeah. It was just crazy. It was like, we're going to bench press on them, we're going to do this on them, we're going to squat on them. It was just everything.
I mean, what? Why? Just why? Yeah.
They're good. They're really, and the reverse was, I remember in reaction to that, it was... so Tony Doherty, who was the strength and conditioning coach at Carlton Football Club, and also a big sort of bodybuilding gym guy. And I remember
still is, really.
Yes, very much, yeah. And back when I was working at the Dandenong Rangers, the president teed me up. He was really good in the off season. Chuck Ryan, great friend of mine who's now sadly passed away.
Cool
he was awesome, great guy. Really impressive coach, big influence on a lot of people's lives, mine included. He was a great mentor. But Chuck did this lovely thing of he would tee up all these introductions to using his connection, because he was very, very well liked and connected. And one of those was he got me half a day hanging out with Tony Doherty, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
And it just exposed me to another completely different way of thinking about lots of things. And I remember at that point they had the lowest soft tissue, the lowest hamstring rate in the competition at that point. And Dawson Kidge, do you remember Dawson?
Yes, yeah.
And I grew up playing basketball with Dawson. So,
did you really?
Yeah. And then we reconnected via Deacon and Bounce.
Yeah.
And Dawson said, well, his suspicion was that it was the stiff-legged deadlifts that Tony Doherty was doing, which were giving really, really good neural mobility. So they were just keeping the nerves really nicely flossed.
Really.
That was early flossing. And I don't think that a stiff-legged deadlift is the best way to get at that these days. I think there's better ways you can do it. But it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a long tangent.
But that's you, Durham. That's you. The tangents. That's what I missed about you. I'm random facts. Just.
But it was really funny because when I got there, he was talking about, asked him about the core training, and it's like, well, the first thing I did was I popped all the Swiss balls because they're bullshit.
Totally, yeah. I mean,
But what he was reacting to was people thinking Swiss balls were for everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're actually good for a few things.
Yeah.
Brilliant for a few things, like most tools in your toolkit. You know, they're good for a few things.
We use them a lot with Swiss ball hamstring curls.
Great for
and
hammy
single
curls.
leg. Yeah, so in that hamstring family.
You like them for hammy curls. I like them. I don't like crunches in general, but I think for our tennis players and our volleyballers who have to arch back, I do quite like a Swiss ball crunch because you're actually getting some strength into extension.
The dumbbell pullovers.
Yeah, they're good too. Do you do pullovers on the ball?
I have a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else do you use the ball for?
To be honest, all the
hamstring
curls is probably the big one.
We use them for a fair bit for stir the pot. And that's
a great one actually.
Yeah,
I forgot about that one.
And also we do it as a deload for Nordics. If we're trying to chase range of motion, so you have the ball out in front of you, and so it takes your weight, so you're getting the Nordic motion.
Have you tried banded Nordics?
Yeah, I have.
Not a fan? I can see the look on your face.
No, I think they're good.
Yeah.
But they were a bit of a fiddle to set up for us.
They are a bit of a...
And
especially for a female, it just
set up across
gets
the chest.
caught under your boobs and it's just all really awkward.
Yeah, and so we never really got into that. And also the thing is, and I've tried them myself, and because everything I prescribe, I try. I don't think you should ever coach a thing that you don't do and you haven't tried. And I just always felt that I was kind of holding back because I didn't really know the band had me. Mm-hmm. Whereas I had better results when I was doing a Nordic out to a bench, where I knew I could make the catch at the bench, so I could really hang on for dear life, knowing there was...
You're just restricting the range of motion.
Yeah. I reckon that's been a bit... And also, I think the bands are good. The bands are great for enabling you to go out and back up, which we got into for a while. But I actually don't like the out and back up very much because our view is the whole point of a Nordic is a supramaximal eccentric stimulus, and therefore the second you can go back up, it's no longer supramaximal.
Yeah.
So you should actually just be going out but with external load.
Funnily enough, I just started, I've got a Taekwondo athlete at Maribrynong, and in his warm-up I've actually broken the two up. So he does the eccentric part and then rests and then does the concentric part.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just started to think about it when I was programming it, that same sort of aspect. It's like, well, you're wasting all this energy coming up, but I really want you to be resting before you come back down again. So I'll just separate them.
That's really smart.
It's just taking his warm-up a little bit longer.
So have you put them at different ends of the workout?
No, he's just on the GHR. So he does the eccentric part first, and then he has maybe like a good 3-minute rest, and then just does the concentric part.
I'll have to come out and sit in with you on a session.
Oh my God,
sometime.
we'd love to have you here.
I'd love to come and have a look. That's so cool.
Yeah, well, it's just the way you kind of bounce ideas around. And that's why it's really good with the boys, because we're constantly giving each other feedback, and it's all just really constructive criticism. And I think it's one thing I had to learn really early was just not to take anything personally. I used to get really upset early on in my career.
Did you?
Yeah, just really...
I find that hard to believe. You're such a robust,
No, I used to get quite defensive.
Really?
Yeah, because I think you just get a bit of ownership over your program almost, like, this is mine and it's my, it's your intellectual property, and you're almost proving how smart you are in a program sort of thing. And then I had to just really... backpedal and just be like, everyone makes mistakes in their program. Like the amount of programs that I've screwed up.
I would be so... If you could see some of my early programs.
I know,
like
right?
the first 10,000 hours,
cringe.
I don't reckon my programming was that good.
I can't believe people paid us to actually write. I was still learning how to use Excel properly, I think.
Yeah, still am.
I was actually just thinking before when you were saying you go through all your programs or your exercises before you actually prescribe them, and that's something I did pedantically at Carlton. I did every single program for the good sort of 4 weeks to really cycle it, even just to see like if my rest periods were right.
That's great.
Yeah, it was really good until I fell pregnant, and then I was like 8 months pregnant, trying to still can't do it anymore. Just have to slide this one through and see how we go.
I think that's such an important thing. And you can pick up major debacles before they happen.
Yeah. But then you're delivering it so confident because you feel like you
know it back to front.
Yeah.
I saved myself from giving an athlete a catastrophic injury by doing that in 2004. Yeah. So
Is this a basketball athlete?
Yeah. So it was 2003 was my first season with the Rangers, and I came back second season. They had this thing where they decided that conventional wisdom is if you win a championship, you need to improve your list by 10% in order to go back to back. If you just have the same list, people will catch you. So you've got to improve. And the club decided that they loved their list so much they weren't going to do that. But what they wanted to do was double down on me and have me do a full, more comprehensive year-long program with the team, and I was going to be that. I was going to deliver that 10%.
Just you. I hope that was a 10% pay rise as well.
It was more than.
Good. Good.
So I felt tremendous pressure to make that second season because I kind of felt like we did a great job. We had a low injury rate, but I just felt tremendous pressure to do that so we could go back to back. And the happy ending is that we went back to back and it was awesome, and the girls were physically stronger and better, and it all worked out.
Yeah.
But my level of attention to detail went through the roof in that second year, and so I had this great drill that was a Chicago Bulls drill, and what it was you've got an athlete and it's an agility, fitness, vertical leaps, power, endurance drill, I suppose. What you've got to do is you've got to run outside the key, grab a basketball, run back into the key, dunk that basketball, run outside the key, grab another basketball, run back in, dunk it, and it's as many dunks as you can get in 45 seconds.
Okay. They wouldn't find that fun at all, would they?
And so Scottie Pippen was the record holder for that because he was very good and very agile. And I thought, you know what, let's mix up the preseason. Let's do that for the girls. We'll lower the ring.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of my pet peeves with female basketball is they don't like practicing jumping as much, and it's
Why
a skill.
Is that?
I think it's sociological. If you say I'm speaking generalities here, but if you say to a guy, "Oh, you think you're so good," they're like, "Tell your mates, yeah, I'm pretty good. I've worked pretty hard to be this good."
Yeah.
And if you say to a girl, "You think you're so good," "Oh no, I don't." Like it's quite a different.
I've got a really
thing.
good example of that.
Yeah.
Sorry to get off your tangent.
No.
It's like a job interview, and I've given this example a few times with just the difference in females and males with confidence and how much they back themselves. So even though some people have said I come across really confident, really deep down, I question myself all the time.
So interesting, isn't it?
So you get a job.
And my wife does that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Kate's an aerospace engineer.
Yeah, she's a freak.
She's a rocket scientist, and she still doesn't back us.
I love that you can say that. My wife's a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Like, seriously? Oh, wow.
So you still have that doubt, but you just kind of push through.
Yeah. Well, I think in our environment, you can't let anyone think that you're not confident, especially when you're dealing with an athlete, because if you come across not confident, how are they going to buy into your program?
Yeah.
So you get a job list of prerequisites, say there's like 6, and a guy will read it and go, yeah, I think I'm nailing like 3 of them. I'll apply.
Yeah.
Whereas a girl, if you're not nailing like all 6, you will not apply.
Yeah.
And again, I'm generalising. There are women out there that, are the curveballs and at the end of the bell curve where they'll just, back themselves. But, yeah, generally
that's huge.
The females will be like, if I'm not nailing it, I won't do it.
Yeah. Whereas guys are like, oh, I've got a bit of that. I'll learn it.
Exactly.
I'm good.
Yeah.
And it also applies, and this is a really good home tip for all the women listening, all the female coaches and just everyone, in performance reviews. So
I suck at those.
So before Kate once saw a colleague of hers at work, because you have to fill out in some workplaces, you have to fill out what you've done.
Yep.
And she saw his performance review, and it was like, I have successfully done this, I have done that, and she's like, oh. Yeah. That's how men fill out their performance review.
Yeah.
And so then you submit that, and it's on the reviewer to say to you, actually, no, you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Whereas women's are much more tentative.
Oh, yeah.
And that can, those things can add up over the course of a career.
Yeah.
In terms of
you just don't. Yeah, you don't sell yourself enough.
Yeah, whereas guys were very comfortable with that. So what I've found over the years is that that female athletes. So at the end, it's a basketball example, but at the end of every training session in the history of civilization, a boy has tried to jump and touch the net. Like, it's never not happened, every single time. And if you say to a boy, how high can you jump? They're like, I can touch the second bolt on the thing at Nunawading Stadium. I can touch the third bolt on the thing at Kilsyth because it's got a bouncier floor. Like, they know exactly.
Yeah.
And they practice jumping all the time.
Yeah.
And the girls, if you're a girl and at the end of training session you go and start trying to touch the net, everyone's like, oh, what's she doing?
Yeah.
And so they just don't practice those skills because they don't like to show off. It's sociological.
Thing.
Yeah. So one of our things here has always been, let's try and make the girls jump and let's build confidence in them early.
Yeah.
And we have to. My general view is that on any given task, a male will overestimate the capacity by about 30%.
Yes.
We just think we're better than we are.
Yes.
And girls are under by about 30. So it's a 60% turnaround.
Yeah.
And so with the guys, often we'll be holding them back a little bit. And with the girls, we're going to push them along a little.
Yeah.
And it's that relentless line of, no, you can do this. You've got this. I know you can do it. And then
the art of coaching, hey?
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite a difference. Anyway, so the dunk.
Tangents.
Sorry. Tangents are good. So it's a great drill. So you run out, you grab the ball, dunk it, run. You've got to do that for 45 seconds. And I thought, you know what, this is great. It's going to be fun. The girls are going to like it a lot. I'd read an interesting book by Pat Riley and talked about how difficult it is to do back-to-back championships because teams are much less coachable. The more winning a team does, the less there's an inverse relationship between the amount of winning and the level of coachability.
Yeah.
And so you've just got to mix it up more and find different ways. And I thought, this is going to be a great drill. They're going to love it. Terrific fun. And then I said, I will just test it out on myself first. And so I asked one of the stadium people, could you lower the room for me, take it down nice and low, and I took it down, I think to 8.5 foot maybe, so pretty low.
Okay. I'm actually an amateur basketball fan, so what is it normally?
So 10 foot
10
is
foot,
normal.
okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so it was at a height where it was challenging for me to do it, and this is a much younger me, because I don't jump so much anymore, but I could do it.
Yeah.
And so I set the timer and I did it, and running. It was really hard working. Your legs just at about the 30-second mark, your legs are just done. And the final dunk before the timer went out, I really extended up, to just get that last bit to get it done, and I tore my ab.
No, what?
Yeah.
I've never heard of anyone doing that.
Yeah, it's
no way.
Yeah, I landed. I was like,
so this is 2003 or 4?
2004. So I'm a lot younger.
Yeah.
And I tore it.
Oh my God.
Right, and it's hilarious.
It is so funny.
But it was so and I tore it, and I immediately knew I was in trouble because I could feel it was right up at the top of rectus abdominis, and I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And the pain and so what part of the treatment is you have to have it massaged, and it was
when it's torn,
to help encourage it to
collagen,
scar up, and so it was being
tissue.
worked through.
Yep.
So it took me 6 weeks to recover from that.
Holy
Now,
crap.
imagine if I had torn the ab of one of our athletes because I did not adequately understand that.
Holy crap.
So
that's a really good lesson.
They call it in Silicon Valley. They call that what we do, which is trying the workouts. They call it dog fooding.
Okay.
The idea being that you have to eat. You've got to try the dog food. If you're working in a dog food factory,
I like it.
So
it's impossible to do it 100% of the time, but I think it's so important to at least have a rough understanding of what it feels like and what you're doing.
It's a big part of what keeps me training because I feel like I can't do my job well if I'm not in good enough condition to try the stuff.
How often do you train at the moment?
I'm 6 to 7 days a week.
Oh wow, geez, that's good.
I just found for me, and I don't want to go into it because the listeners have heard about it before. So I don't want to be too autobiographical. But I found for me that I find it easier to just know that I'm training every day. So every morning I roll out of bed and I either run or I lift.
Yeah.
And it's just the first thing I do, get it out of the way and done. I've got tiny little home gym.
Yeah, I saw that on your Insta.
Yeah, right.
Is that the one photo you put up on Instagram? Is that it for another 3 years? Yeah, okay.
Playing the slow game.
Just reel him in.
I love that.
Yeah,
so
cool.
I just do that, and I'm not training the house down, but my consistency is really good. So
routine.
And my goal is to keep my body operating at the level it was at 25.
Okay.
So to maintain the same strength, fitness, flexibility, mobility as 25-year-old me, which is, I reckon I'm probably at about the level of 30-year-old me.
Yeah.
So that's still 16 years.
How do you gauge that? Is that off like numbers with 1RMs or something?
Just feeling like, so young me at my best, I could do 12 chin-ups. I could squat 100 kilos nicely at a body weight of 65.
Yep.
I had mostly a six-pack. So I was lean, strong, fit, and so it's like, whereas at the moment I'm a long way, like the six-pack is, I've got the linear elbow. I've got like one line.
We'll just put that down to the ab tear, will we? You tore your muscles in 2003. It's that.
No, I wish I could say that. I wish I
actually had so Shane McDonald, our basketball tech coach over at Maribrynong, he had a course and you did a presentation there, and he loved it. And he said you were talking a lot about your routine.
He was an awesome point guard. Did you ever see him play?
Yes,
he could ball.
He's a jet, isn't he? And for a guy who's
not a big unit.
No, he's relatively short, but he's a workhorse.
So tough and so smart.
Such a good human as well.
Yeah. I'm really excited. I get to work with 10 new coaches as part of the new Bustle Victoria thing, because he's one of the hub people, so he's going to be one of the people I get to work with.
He's genuinely one of the nicest guys as well. Just had another little baby girl too.
Yeah, cool.
And he said that you were talking about your morning routine. You have the blue light. That's working really well for you at the moment. Yeah, he was so interested about all that. But he said you were talking a lot about coaches' well-being, and it's something that I was like, we don't talk about it enough. We talk about athlete, and never really focus on us, which is the nature of the job. But
it is, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, I did that talk. Unfortunately, I had 30 minutes to brief them on all the stuff we're doing with BV and to talk about their health. So I kind of had to hustle through it. So we recorded a full episode, which is like kind of my expanded version of what that talk would have been.
Okay.
So you should check it out.
I will. I will.
Kind of cool.
I was listening to your swimming one actually the other day.
Okay.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, cool.
I'm a fan.
Oh, very good. So where were we? So you travelled?
Yes, travelled. Okay.
And came back, and what did you do then?
So I think we started off talking about if I had an internship. Did I do it? No, and I didn't.
Mentors.
There was a lady that I worked with who was an EP, and she, I was doing a little bit of work in a hospital setting with her, and I actually worked in a hospital as an allied health assistant when I first graduated, because that's just what
you do.
That's what you can do when you're graduate as a human movement student, just work in a hospital. Yep. And I hated it. Oh, God, I hated it. I hated it. Wheeling people around in wheelchairs to go to the gym to do sit to stands for 60 seconds with a physio and go back to their room. Like, it was just so stale, not challenged. And then I travelled again. I went overseas. And started my postgrad in exercise physiology. But I think that's when I started to get into the footy world a little bit. I was doing a little bit of help with mainly men's teams. And I don't know, I just really liked being around a team. And I think,
it's awesome.
Seeing you in that environment, working in a gym setting and then being around the team, it just sort of opened my eyes to, being able to work in sport. And where did I go from there? I decided to do my level 1 ASCA, and then that's how I sort of started to get to know the boys at Maribrynong, because I did my hours there with one of the guys that I knew. And I was working in female footy pretty heavily by that stage. Yeah,
you were very much the pioneer. Like you were right in there.
Back in the day, like it was, no one cared about women's footy. Like in 2000, it was around 2009.
That's why I was so psyched when you got the Carlton gig, because I'm like, yes, that is justice, because you put in the hard yards.
I did, but we all did, and I felt like I genuinely went along the journey with the girls. Like they worked their ass off to get to that point in the AFL. I did too, and I went on that journey, and I'm still good mate. Some of them were at my wedding. Like, I'm still really
awesome.
good friends with them all. And
tell us all about that. So, what an amazing thing to be part of.
Yeah. So I started initially. It all started with me. I was actually playing for Melbourne Uni for like one season.
Yeah. Were you good?
No, I just ran the shit over the I was just running. I was good at running.
What was your sports background?
I danced for 22 years.
That's right, yeah.
Which not many people would know or guess, I think.
And my experience of dancers, track and field and gymnastics people, they're hilarious because you see them, you're like, you are a star athlete.
Yeah.
And then you put a ball in the equation, it's like, oh, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah. Just looks wrong, doesn't it?
So that was a big transition then.
It was, yeah. But I always played sport through school, so I didn't look awkward with the ball.
You weren't a total punk.
I wasn't a total punk, but I certainly was no bloody Darcy Vesio. So yeah,
she's amazing.
Yeah. So I was at Melbourne Uni. I actually hurt myself. I got a syndesmosis sprain. I landed and my foot was pointing back in the other direction. And anyway, back in those days, there was no help. We didn't even have a trainer. So I ended up doing my own rehab. Luckily, I had the education behind me that I could do that. And then there were a few other girls on the team that were injured, and I said, I'll help you out. There's no help here. And I think it just snowballed from there. I was the only one that was like, hey, people need to help these girls. Like, no one is helping them.
Yeah.
And so then I remember one Easter I was away with a friend, and I saw in The Age an article about Peter Searle, and she had been appointed the coach. Awesome. Yeah.
Her kids go to the same school as my kids, so
and
we've got a bit of a connection through those. So the mothers group friends are all connected.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
She's great.
She's such a unique character and just will tell you the honest truth about everything, which hurts sometimes. Yeah. But you need to hear it. She's just been, again, probably another mentor of mine in an acute period of my life.
We have an athlete that trains with us, Ellie Brown, who's and she just loves.
She was at Carlton for a bit.
Oh, was she? Yeah. And then now it's St Kilda. Yeah. She's great.
I think she was. Yeah.
She broke the great athlete, lifts really hard, and she hit 61 centimetres on a vertical, which was actually in excess of the AFL record.
Yeah. Nice. That's a good jump.
Yeah, good jump.
So I gave Peter a ring and just said, hey, do you need help with the Vic Academy? Because she was the coach. And she's like, I have no help with the rehab side or the strength and conditioning side. And so, I just put my hand up and helped her out. And then she really was the one that gave me a lot of opportunities. So she ended up the coach for the Bulldog side when they did the exhibition matches, and then was lucky enough to be a part of that with her there. And then I stayed on for another season there. And then by that stage I knew a lot of people in the community, and then obviously the AFLW started, and the coach at the time for Carlton in that inaugural season, Damien Keeping, gave me a call and said, can you come and help us?
How good is that to be recruited like that? That's the best.
Yeah, I got recruited a few places, but I decided Carlton was the way to go.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was an amazing. So I've never been under so much stress and pressure in a job before, because I was working full-time still at Maribrynong.
Yeah, full-time.
And so doing full-time Maribrynong and then essentially another part-time job.
But it's like a full-time job though, because it's always everything that pops up.
24/7,
Everything that pops up in those gigs, it has to be. It becomes top of mind.
It's
not like you go, I compartmentalize that. I'll deal with that 3 days.
Well, you become invested in the players, emotionally, and they're. I don't know. I think that's what makes a good S&C coach is you're not doing it for. You're not doing it for the money and the accolades and the title. You're doing it because you genuinely really care for these people.
You want to do a great job for them. Yeah.
You want to see them succeed, and so it was a huge learning curve. And I made so many mistakes.
Tell us about the mistakes. What You don't have to tell us all of them, but what do you think?
I guess trying to control too much
HPM
stuff
is a big job.
It's a huge job. And
People
at
don't
the time, because it was
Did I tell you I stepped down from HPM at the
did
Boomers?
you?
Yeah.
Oh.
So after...
Because you guys had a bloody ripper run, no injuries.
Had a good run.
Yeah.
Did pretty good. But the end of last season, I stepped down from HPM and just I made up a role for myself. I said, because I wanted to maintain a connection with the girls and with the team. So I said, I'll just be your speed and agility coach.
Okay, because is that the part you enjoy the most? And
no, I enjoyed I loved it, but
Yeah.
it was all consuming. And there was just a point where I realised that the business here needed more. I was neglecting my baby to help. As much as I loved it, sort of a bit someone else's baby.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to just get this place. And so I really hope in the long term to be back there in the HPM spot because I just loved it. But there's just so much under the radar coordination and responsibility and, and I didn't think I didn't feel like I was doing a particularly good job of it because I was so overwhelmed with doing it all. But it's a lot.
Yeah.
So, and you tried to control everything, you think?
Yeah, well, similar to what you're saying where you I felt the same. I was just sort of trying to get the bare minimum done to get everything done and not really doing one thing or two things
How big was
really
your list?
well. We had it's probably about 30 girls on the list.
Yeah.
But at that stage, because it was our first season, I didn't have any other help apart from Riley Bodger, who was the head physio. She was amazing. And one of these physios that is so good at the exercise prescription, which is really rare, and very open to the S&C side of things. So we worked brilliantly as a team, but without her, I would have sucked. But I had no rehab person, so I was kind of doing the rehab programs as well as the S&C, as well as like the running.
And you're playing in
I'm
a
getting
space.
stressed just thinking about it.
And you're playing in a space where it was unknown how the injuries were going to go. It was, like, we all thought there was going to be a lot of ACLs, and we thought probably comparable hammies. We weren't really sure, and it was like, are we going to get lots of groin issues? Like, it was just What surprised you in terms of the way the girls' bodies responded? Were there things where you're like, we didn't anticipate this, or did it all go to plan?
To be honest, I think the thing that I learnt the most was prior to then, because it's very hard, as you'd understand, when you're not working with them full time, to have full control over what they're doing is very difficult. So a lot of them are still in bad habits from years gone past where they're just doing, heaps of just long runs all the time and never any speed work.
Drives me the long run thing. I need to be fit. I'm going to run a 6K run. I'm going to run 6,000 meters really slowly to prepare myself for running 20 meters fast.
People still do that, and I think that's what surprised me is that I think I made the mistake of assuming that we'd come a long way since then, so started just prescribing what you would normally prescribe these days as part of your preseason running with a bit of speed work in there, and we were getting so many
so tell us what that looked like. So what would you be giving?
So we would do a longer session so we'd have 3 sessions during the week. There'd be like a speed session. There'd be
take it back. Take me through how the week worked. So Monday, what happens?
Forgive me if I'm a bit rusty because I've been 2 years out of it now. But obviously it changes depending on what part of their season they're in. But we'd have them for such a short period of time. We had to be almost.
Would you lift before they went on the park or afterwards?
No. So the first season I actually did not have them lifting after their training sessions.
Yep.
I wanted to keep it completely separate.
Yeah, nice.
Because we could only use the ground after some of the boys were on there or the umpires.
Really?
So we weren't actually on the field until maybe 7, 8 o'clock at night.
So you went on after the umpires?
Yeah, so we weren't finishing, was it the umpires?
Someone.
We'd certainly have our team meeting at around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and that'd go for like an hour. And then by the time we got on the ground, we weren't getting off the ground from training until 9:30. So I'm not going to make people lift at 9:30. People need to eat and go to bed.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But the second year we did same sort of thing, and I know after I left they changed that and had the girls lifting afterwards, but they were just sort of getting just some of the basics done and still doing their main lift outside of there.
Yep.
But yeah, we do. Again, I made a mistake of doing just separating upper and lower. So that caused a bit of chaos because obviously if they're doing their lower body session, they're extremely sore from just all that load and then going into training the next day. So made it just full body stuff.
Yep. Did you change that quickly? Like was it one of those things where you did it and you're like, oh, what's
yeah.
Well, that's good. Failing fast.
Yeah.
Fail fast
the
is
other
good.
thing that was really interesting in that first season, a lot of the girls got supplied free boots. So that was a bit of a novelty, but it was like day one of preseason. Not only did they get these new boots, but we had fresh new balls as well.
Right.
So we had these balls that weren't broken in. We had boots that were it was just chaos. The groin strains were just through the roof. So we had to, again, just adapt pretty quickly.
And so the groin strain makes so much sense because the female pelvis, it's shaped differently because it has to have the birth canal. Q angle is going to be different, and your adductors are kind of, and your glute med, they're kind of having to work around corners compared to a more straight-legged shape. Did it happen where it was like, were you going in there thinking, we'll get a bit of this, and it was like, whoa, like way more?
Yeah, way more. And I think that still happened even the second season. We nibbed it in the bud and we still didn't nib it in the bud enough.
What did you do for bulletproofing groins, for bulletproofing adductors? What were your favourite things?
So the old Copenhagen.
So good. We love them.
Yeah. So we obviously did the modified version with that bent knee.
Okay.
And
tell me about the modified version because we just go, our modified version is short lever. So we just shorten
bent knee.
Right.
Short lever. Yeah, same sort of thing.
Same sort of thing. So you're doing, because we do it in here off a bench.
Yes.
So, whereas you just do bent knee.
No, they're still on the bench, but the bottom leg is bent. So they haven't got that bottom leg. You're shortening that lever of the bottom leg.
Okay, yep.
Getting passionate here with the microphone.
It's so good.
And that was really good.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I actually got from one of the guys at Maribrynong was plate slides. So you're pushing the plate out and then pulling the plate in. It's hard without actually physically demonstrating it.
All right, you're going to show me later and
I will.
we'll film it. I'm going to write a little note. Plate slides.
I'm glad I did hair and makeup today.
Very good.
Jokes. Clearly.
Plate slides. Cool. Okay, good. It's amazing that specific work. Like I think sometimes it gets underappreciated. There can be this thing where you've just got to do all the big compound things, push, pull, hinge, and they're super important. But you've got to do sometimes just a little bit of supportive structural work. And Copenhagen's just amazing for that. It's just hitting that adductor hard.
And it's kind of idiot proof as well.
Yeah.
It's not hard to coach it. It's not hard to screw it up.
It's a low hanging fruit. It's easy done. We had an athlete here who's now up at the AIS and doing great. And she tore her adductor running down the hallway in socks. And
was
then,
she honest about that story straight away? That's good.
she's
Because normally they're like, I was playing. And they're like, no, I just was running around.
Yeah, no, she was just running around. And then as part of her rehab, we did a really good Copenhagen progression.
Yeah.
So we actually started off with a great exercise I got from Kay Copeland, really good physio, which is a band-resisted glute bridge. So normally when you're doing glute bridge, you have the band around your knees and you're pushing out.
Yeah.
This is the reverse, where you have the band around a pole or whatever, and it's pulling you out, therefore your adductor's having to work harder.
Yeah.
And the epiphany for us was that Kay and Dr. Gather Mackay, who's my colleague and friend at the Boomers, who's an amazing physio as well, she's now the Opal's physio as well, they explained to us that adductor magnus is actually an external rotator of the hip. And we were like, no, it's an adductor, it can't do that. And she's like, no, go look at the insertion origin points because it goes around to the back of the femur. So
does it?
Yeah, so when you look at where it operates, and she said if you've got someone with a crappy single leg squat, they're getting too much of a valgus moment, do this bridge exercise with the band on the outside and it will fix up their valgus moment. And it seemed really counterintuitive that you're pulling the knee in order to get better at not having the knee cave in. And we did it. Amazing results.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it was really cool.
What sort of prescription would you be doing with that?
3 sets of 10 reps, pretty easy. It doesn't seem like much when you're doing it, but because often those muscles have not been exposed to that stress, it can get quite a lot of DOMS. So one of our Olympians, I did it with her, and she was 3 days of serious DOMS.
Well, it's like Copenhagen's. You got to be really careful.
You got to build it in really slow. Yeah.
You can't be cowboy with it and just be like 3 sets of 15, go.
No, we do it with seconds, and we just do holds, and it's like we got by like
metrics,
2 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we did the rehab and followed it to the letter, and then she was at playing a game, and she went to do a jab step. Where you kind of fake someone one way and your foot, then you go the opposite direction, but her foot slipped, and so she did like the full splits. Whole stadium goes silent. She's like, oh my God, she's torn that badly. She jumped up, kind of shook her leg out, and she's like, I'm good.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
so
she was fine?
she was fine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And to me, that was my point where I went, these are a legit bulletproofer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think we actually, we did use something similar to Carlton. I've actually got a list of, I'll shoot through the list of what we actually did.
Yeah, it'd be
about a
fascinating to see
5 exercises.
Yeah, it's cool.
But we had a whole injury prevention protocol, I guess, that they had to do before they went out on the field. But, the ACLs, hey, it's just another
How many did you have?
Well, when we started the season, Jess Hosking came into the list with an ACL already.
Yep.
And we had another player, Katie Loins. So they're both sort of senior players. They both had ACL rehabs to start with.
Yep. So they're already a demonstrated talent at doing it. Yep.
And then Bree Davey did her ACL. I think we had one other. I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's probably about par for the league, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or a little bit low.
But I think I've thought so much about this problem, and to be honest, I think it's to do with where we're at with the league at the moment, and you don't have the whole team's not incredibly experienced. So you're getting a lot of inexperienced players,
movers.
Category B people coming through. And so, you're not getting girls that have played Auskick since they were 4 or 5 coming in, and they're used to the contact and they're used to preparing their bodies for contact. I think that's where it stems from. They're not going up for a mark, preparing their body for an impact.
You actually can't judge any of it until kids. My daughter's 7 now, and she's been doing Auskick for a couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
And so when she's 20, is actually then you'll say, this is kind of how it all sits.
Yeah.
Until then, it's going to be because they just don't know how to move, and I mean particularly the cross coders. Like Erin Phillips, she's a beast. She's so strong, so good, so agile. Yeah. But she's still, and although she played footy as a junior, she still played the majority of her life on a basketball court, and so it's just going to be different.
Yeah. It's almost like it doesn't matter how athletic you are and how strong you are if you're not prepared for that contact. But then some of them are just really unfortunate, really unlucky, and it just pushes the statistics up and creates more attention to it.
Some are unlucky, some are collisions where it's like, well, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And then some are, I think the most interesting ones in some ways are the unforced errors, like the cutting error ones. And what I see a lot of is people who are cutting with their foot externally rotated. So their foot's turned out, like their right foot is turned out as they're trying to cut left. And so they've got a position of relative internal rotation of the femur in relation to the tibia. And I reckon that's
you're already giving yourself
you're in
no
such
chance.
You know? Yeah. So we try and drill here. We drill into the athletes cutting with a straight foot.
Yeah.
So learning to bounce out of the cut rather than kind of shove your way out of the cut.
What sort of drills do you guys use to coach all that stuff?
I really slow-mo cutting. I really like just a Z cut.
You're almost learning a dance before you speed it up and do it to the music.
Just rehearse it. Yeah, exactly, yeah. And what I want to do is I want to stigmatise that externally rotated. I want that to feel weird. I want to make them, because it's particularly with basketball, because it used to be that we would teach, not us here, but the sport would teach people when you're moving laterally to turn your foot out in the direction you're going.
Yeah.
And so that's an unnatural action that we've accidentally normalised in the sport.
Yeah.
So it's just teaching them, no, it's parallel. So just slow Z cuts.
Yeah.
I like a diagonal skate hop where you're having to maintain, so you're just diagonally jumping but having to stick that landing with your foot straight ahead.
Yeah.
Even things like a walking lunge.
Yeah.
Like just making sure that they're doing a walking lunge with that really nice neutral foot position.
Yeah.
And then agility hops where it's like you're doing that sort of figure of eight.
Yeah.
It's also called frappier. I mean, agility hops is the name we made up.
Yeah.
But the technical name frappier footwork patterns, that figure eight stuff, which seems to go good.
Yeah. It's really interesting trying to get the right recipe, I guess.
And you can do everything right and you're still going to have that Lindsay Gay saying, which I quote quite a bit, operation successful, patient died. Where you did everything right and it's just, maybe the collagen, they just had loose collagen.
I have this discussion with my husband all the time because he's an engineer.
Okay.
And he likes black and white. He doesn't like grey.
Yeah.
And in our job, you're dealing with grey
so much nuance
all the time,
so much
and you're dealing with human bodies, and you might have, the best program ever, and you've gone over it and over it and over it, and you're like, okay, yep, this is it, and it just still turns to shit.
On Sunday, I couldn't agree more. On Sunday, I bumped into an old friend, Dan, who's just about to graduate and become an osteopath, and he's going to be a cracking osteo. And he said he'd heard a great saying. I think it was from a guy, Ben Cormack. He said, I heard of it and I thought of you straight away. You've got to learn to be okay with grey.
Yeah.
It's just,
you do. It's hard though, isn't it? Yeah. I don't naturally like grey, but you just have to. As long
as you don't take being okay with it too far, because I think what makes you great, and I think what spurred me on is that every time an athlete that I coach gets an injury, my first thing is I've stuffed up. What did I do wrong? So I look at the program, I look at the situation. I'm like, where did I go wrong?
Yeah.
Which is actually really constructive because it means you're constantly trying to improve to make them as bulletproof as you can. If you get neurotic about it and you can't sleep because you went wrong, that's bad. But if you have that, I think the worst attitude you can have, and I've seen this with some colleagues over the years, is shit happens.
Yeah.
It's like but you're not going to learn. You don't learn anything from saying that.
You're okay with the subjective part.
You just have to try and do your best. So the AFL. So you had young
Hudson. Yes,
I knew the name, but I wasn't sure whether I was going to say it on air or not.
Henry.
No, I knew the name. I knew the name because we have a Hudson that trains here,
cool.
and he's one of our favourite athletes. He's a hilarious guy. So your name's stuck because I had a person to anchor to.
Yeah.
So you were 8 months pregnant with him.
Yeah, still working.
Still working. Yeah. And then how much time did you take off?
Well, at Carlton, I pretty much left.
Yep.
Not sure I'm allowed to say this, but I was lucky enough that Damien, the coach, paid me out for the rest of my contract.
That's nice.
But technically he didn't need to, which is crazy because it's technically maternity leave.
Yeah.
But that's where I think
good
the
karma
AFL,
for him.
Yeah, well, I think, the AFLW still has a long way to go with, we've got female athletes, but you also have a lot of female staff and people are going to have babies.
Yeah.
They're going to get pregnant and have babies.
Yeah.
And
get your head around it.
So I was paid out for the rest of my contract, but that was a discussion he and I had and I don't even think the club knew about that.
Yeah.
And then with Maribrynong, I took 8 months off. Yeah, so I was pretty much away term 1, 2, 3 and then came back term 4.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, working and being a mum's another.
It's a whole thing, isn't it? The juggle. Yeah.
I thought Carlton was hard. Having a baby's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
people don't.
hard.
They don't understand. Kate and I, to my eternal shame, when Kate and I were talking about having kids, I was like,
you got 2, don't you?
Yeah. So, I said, Max is 9, Amber's 7.
Wow.
And I said, you know what? We're going to go 50-50. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to help with everything.
Yeah.
And in the early days, before trying to launch Core Advantage, I did a pretty good job of that. So Kate went back to work. relatively early, and I stayed home. So we both went part time.
Yeah.
So I was looking after him
that.
3 days a week, and so was she, and we made that work really well. But then when this all kind of ignited, getting core advantage going, I dropped my end of it a bit. But it's really hard to do. It's hard to juggle it all and to get it all done.
There's a really interesting book actually, sorry to cut you, the 4 pillars, and the further up the success chain you get, you almost have to drop one of those pillars if you want to get more successful in your career. So, you got family.
Who's it by?
Social. It's a book.
Do you remember who it's
I
by?
don't know.
Okay, I'll find it.
My memory is bloody shocking.
Well, sleep deprivation will do that.
That's just me in general, though, unfortunately.
My
memory's so bad.
My young kid.
I even got an app to try and help my memory.
Yeah, same.
I'm like, I'm going to get Alzheimer's for sure.
Yeah.
You're great at stuff. You remember so much stuff.
You see me once and you think you ask my staff, they're like, he's a joke.
Do you remember their names at least?
Yeah, I remember the names. But definitely it's hard to maintain. I think this because we consolidate our memories when we're asleep. That's such a big part of the equation.
Yeah.
And you don't get good sleep. There's about a decade where you don't really get, I don't reckon I've had more than 8 days of good consecutive sleep in about a decade.
But when you get one night or 2 nights, you feel like you're just punching the walls. You're just so energetic.
A few weeks ago, I had 6 in a row.
Do I have to wait till they're 9 before I get that?
Gotta wait a while.
Oh, God. Hattie's not a great sleeper.
It's a whole thing. So that's great that you're able to integrate back into Maribrynong.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about the Maribrynong thing because I think that the kind of gig you've got is such a good gig.
It is.
It's just astonishingly and underrated, underappreciated. People, we had James Russell from Iron Edge here doing a podcast a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how some people will have this quest all their life to get into the AFL and they get there and it's not kind of what they hoped it would be.
Is this players or staff?
Staff.
Yeah.
S&Z coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Because you arrive there and you're ready to go. You're good.
Oh, yeah.
And as I said, that's great, but the athletes aren't as excited to meet you as you are to meet them. They're like, you're the 7th S&C guy I've worked with.
Yeah, man.
Whatever.
Yeah, everyone's disposable.
The last guy told me I should do it this way. You're telling me the complete opposite.
Totally.
Won't you guys make up your bloody minds?
Yeah.
They don't love us. We're the ones that we're kind of the broccoli of sport.
Yeah.
The stuff we serve up.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking at the same time as I'm doing a presentation for the strength culture guys. They're doing a really good day-long summit, and they've asked me to come along as a guest speaker.
Awesome.
And I'm going to talk about the compounding power of excellence. But because I think that's how you've done your work, it's how I've done mine, is that you do really good work, and people, it just compounds over time because you do it. You really go all out to make that warm-up perfect, and you really care about it. People see that and they go, "Wow, he or she cares so much about the warm-up." Everything else must also be that's just indicative of everything else. And then over years that compounds and you have a great career.
Yeah.
But my little caveat at the start of it is you guys need to be thinking about sports academies because opening up a business is a nightmare. Don't do it. Everyone's so excited and kind about this place. But if we ran the simulation here, we ran some sort of virtual reality simulation where we did the core advantage thing 100 times. I reckon it succeeds between 5 and 10 times max. There's 90 to 95 times where it falls under and I lose my house.
Yeah.
It's really tough. But the sports academy gig, and the thing I'm going to be saying to these guys is this is actually the sweet spot because you get to work with great athletes. You get to go home at night and see your family. You get holidays, which sound amazing, and you get to work in a great team of like-minded people. It sounds just like a great setup.
We're all so lucky, and I'm so lucky to have found this job, I guess, and even just being able to have paid maternity leave.
That's great.
And be able to come back to my job.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we're extremely lucky. And the holidays, we still work over the holidays.
Do you? I didn't know that.
We come in and open the gym.
You've just taken the shine off it for me.
It's not the old.
I thought you were
not
like
a full school day, but
Okay, cool.
we still go in and open the gym and supervise the kids
Yeah,
that
okay.
come in.
this is
But yeah, you're right. Like we can go home and
have normal lives.
I can be at home at night with Hudson and that's why I haven't gone back to footy, because it's too hard, especially as a parent. Like, and my husband travels a lot with work, and so I've got that, I guess, the stereotypical mum role where I'm part time and I'm pretty much in charge of Hudson most of the week. And if I was working in footy, our family just would not.
Just
it
have it
wouldn't
work.
work.
Yep. It's the same. Like, I had ambitions to get, one day an Olympic gig. Like, I'd love to do, an Opals gig or something like that. And it's just like, not till I'm 50.
Yeah.
Not till the kids are well and truly self-sufficient.
Yeah, it's a huge sacrifice. And the pay as well. I mean, you get to the point in your life, and it pretty much ticked over when I was 30, and I still didn't have a proper full-time salary. And I was like, I'm 30 years old. Like, what? How am I going to get by? Like, how am I going to buy a house? And it's a really, I think that's just a bit of a,
it's a good reality check for the young ones to think about that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, a lot of people come in with their internships with high hopes to work in AFL. That's the first answer. I want to work in AFL. I want to work in AFL. I'm like, that's great, but what's the stability going to be like? Because just because you've got a contract doesn't mean you're going to get,
at all. You're the first guy to get sacked.
Pretty much. There's just no job security, and
when I
I'm really giving it a bad rap.
No, it's good.
Amazing.
I think it's really good to be able to talk about it all, warts and all. I remember when I first bumped into Dawson Kitchell. I hadn't seen him since we were kids, and I was with Dandenong at the time, and we'd just come off back-to-back championships, and things were going great. And he's asked me all about it, and he's really blunt, like great bluntness. And he said, "So you've been sacked yet?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, well, you're going to get sacked."
Yeah.
So anyone that's worked in elite sport gets sacked. And I did. We went championship, runners up 4th, and we all got the sack.
Yeah. And it's like, don't take it personal.
It's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
So you've got the dream gig now. It's a great job. Tell me about how it works. So do you have a roster of athletes that you look after across different sports? Do you specialise in certain areas? How does it all break down?
So the boys and I are all in charge of a year level each, and we follow that year level. So
I love that.
Yeah. Well,
long-term athlete development. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. There's
so you started did you start like at year 7 and you go through?
Yeah, so I'm with the year 11s, and I've been with them since year 7.
That's amazing.
It is really cool, because in no other subject do you have the continuity of the same teacher. You don't have the same maths teacher from 7 to 12.
Yeah.
And you literally get to watch them grow and develop every year into great athletes. It is really cool, but it also, and the boys and I spoken about this in length, where you start to get a sense of ownership over your year level, and you start to be, it's like your children. You're like, well, my kids do this. What do your kids do?
Yeah.
And, well, my kids didn't do this. Why are your kids? And it's sort of healthy competition, but also that's not what it's about. We're there for, to help all of them. So we're in charge of that year level. So we are responsible for all their programming, and all the logistics side of it, organising who's training where, what equipment they're using.
And so how many kids are we talking about? So you've got a year level. It's a year 11.
Year 11, so I have about 80 now.
That's a good number.
Yeah, it is. It's an awesome number. I'm loving the smaller group sizes, and
we like our coaches to have somewhere between 50 and 75.
Okay, because it's manageable.
It's manageable. You can know each athlete really well.
Yeah,
and you can be.
I think year 9 and 10 is probably the most challenging, because you've got about 112 kids.
Yeah,
so there's people that you don't even know their name, and they've got a really high load of ADP. So. It is really tricky, year 9 and 10. And that's that age where, you start to lose them a little bit. They're at a crossroads with what they want to do with their sport. They're starting to be interested in boys and girls, or both. I don't know. Yeah. So it's a really tricky age to navigate through. And year 7 and 8, they're just babies. They're just fresh out of primary school.
great,
Everything's exciting.
Yeah.
Everything's cool.
Yeah.
Whatever you say is gospel.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, but it's heavy coaching. You really not much talking from them. It's a lot of talking and coaching from you. So we call them the money earners. Because you're really on the whole time. Whereas as the independence grows, you can sort of.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not as heavy on the coaching. It's more heavy on the behavioural
there's a
stuff.
Sort of
and
autonomy curve where they know how to do their stuff, and it's like our more senior athletes here. It's like how you going? How's everything feeling? Oh, you're good to go. Cool, go get it done.
Yeah,
and then we just. Whereas the young ones, you're having to really micromanage and teach them a lot of stuff.
So I'm really enjoying working with the seniors. I think that's that's where I really start to thrive in the coaching sense. So, and you get to work with them a little bit more individualised by that stage, because the ones that are still around are generally the ones that are heading into more elite pathways after school, and you're talking with a lot more external coaches about periodising things a little bit more specifically, and saying a lot, and I just realised.
You're not saying much at all.
Just realised.
You're doing great.
It's the pros and cons.
What'll happen when these guys finish? Do you then circle back down to year 7?
Yes. Yeah, straight back to the money earners.
Yeah.
Which, it's really cool because
I love that.
Only now am I've been at Maribrynong 4.5 years now, and I feel like only now am I really understanding the whole process of the place, all, the whole runnings of the place. And it takes a really long time to just figure out what you've done wrong and what you've done right and what sort of coach you want to be in that sort of environment. You're not going to get it within a year. You have to really So I feel like going back to year 7 will be good for me because I've got a whole gamut
what will you do?
Mistakes to
What will you do differently the second time around?
Definitely not take it as seriously in year 7 and 8. They're just kids, so they just want to have fun.
Yep.
And one of our coaches, Todd Carlin's done a great job of that with the year 7s at the
What's Todd's
moment.
background?
He worked.
I know a few of your guys.
Yeah, so Todd worked at the Rebels for a little bit as an intern, and then he also worked at ESP, Elite Sports Performance, for ages under Marty Gervin.
Marty Gervin. Yeah, I did some hours with Marty Gervin. He was one of the lecturers when I did my level 2 ASCA.
Oh, cool. He's been around.
I made the terrible mistake of doing just shortly after Max had been born. It was.
Oh, why?
I was an idiot.
Why?
It's a whole other story. We'll talk about it off air. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so Todd's done a great job of making it more game-based learning, I guess. It's just, they're just kids. They just want to play around, and we need to be a bit more creative in those sort of year levels. Year 9 and 10, I've realised not to give them so much independence. It's probably something I've done as a mistake in the past is almost handing over the reins too early.
Over-trusted them a little bit.
Yeah, because once you give them too much, you give them an inch and they'll just...
It's hard to reel it back as well, isn't it?
It is. It's really hard because you almost feel like you have to baby them through it again. But I've found that if you're giving the right amount of independence and dependence in the program, it seems to run really well. And with the year 11s, I've made it more like a conjugate type setup. So we rotate between different programs each fortnight. So they're constantly coming in, doing something different. It's not really specific to their training week, which is always a really big challenge for us.
So hard to get that right.
You just
can't.
You're never going to control it.
All you can really do is not push them too hard. For me, it's like just don't push them too hard towards the business end of the week.
Yeah, well, I've got them on a Wednesday or Thursday, so it seems to work okay.
Wednesday's a great day.
It just suits everyone, doesn't it? Wednesday's a great day.
You know, it's interesting. what you guys do miss out on is the best day of the week, though, from our point of view, which is Saturday. Is such a great coaching because they're all fresh because they've come straight from sleeping to lifting, and it's not school and
it's a different vibe.
It's a different vibe. But I guess you're getting them during the morning sometimes. You're not always getting them into the end of the day, are you?
Yeah, we get the morning. Yeah,
the morning's
like
good.
9 a.m.
Oh, well, then you're not missing out much at all.
But then you also get the period 6 where it's like 2:30 on a Friday afternoon and you got to train. And
I hate training in the afternoon.
Yeah, I've never been good with that ever. Or training, after you've had your afternoon clients and you got to stay back at work.
Yeah, unpaid overtime. No,
I'm out of here. I've never been good with that. Yeah,
no, absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of that, I think that's a brilliant structure because you're the directly responsible individual for those people.
Yes.
And you have tremendous variety because it's all the sports. So you're not, that's
yeah,
great.
we've got about over 20 different sports. Yeah.
That's cool. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
They're probably not listening. What are your favourite sports and why? My favourite athletes?
I always love working with the gymnasts. They're just bloody good athletes, aren't they?
Yeah, they're body control.
I know, right? They're just so strong, so coordinated, just good at everything. So it's one thing I'm definitely going to get Hudson to do gymnastics. I was talking to my friend Dan and I said to him, if I was Emperor of Australia, because I think like Emperor,
because one of the biggest problems we have in the world is that we're ruining the environment.
Yeah,
we're actually killing the earth. But no one has the power to fix it because everyone's beholden to vested interests and there's all these things. What you actually need is a benevolent dictator who comes in and goes, right, public transport is free. Cars are really expensive. Battery cars are really cheap.
Yeah.
We will actually
it's so inverse, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
Let's get solar. We just got solar at home. Solar's, having the dishwasher running at 11:30 and it being powered by solar. Awesome.
So good.
There's this nuclear reactor in the sky that just works. Anyway, so I have sometimes thought about, how you'd actually sort stuff out. And one of the things you do is you would do gymnastics and compulsory exercise.
Yeah.
And you would shave off billions of dollars on the healthcare budget. Yeah. And you could spend that on your solar power.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes complete sense. Yeah.
And so I said to Dan, if I was the Emperor of Australia, every kid would do gymnastics. So I think that's, I think it's Sweden where they still have quite a significant physical curriculum where they do that kind of stuff he mentioned.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I didn't do it with my kids and I regret it.
Yeah, okay.
I should have done it.
Just that body weight strength stuff.
Strength and awareness and control.
Yeah.
We trained a national level calisthenics athlete.
Cool.
And she was so easy to train.
Yeah.
She just literally picked up everything within about 6 seconds.
Well, funnily enough, the way it's like teaching Olympic lifting, the way I always viewed it was, and this is from my dancing background, it's a sequence of movements. You're just learning a sequence of movements over and over in a particular order and you're just doing that over and over. And that's what dancing is. You're just learning movements that go in a particular order and you just perform that over and over again. And so when you've got that brain for it, it's like the calisthenics people or the gymnasts or the dancers, when you are teaching them, it's always really important to make it a sequence because that's the way their brain can
link it together.
Yeah. Whereas some kids are more about, what it feels like. Where's my head? Where are my hands? But with them, it's just, okay, well, you do this one after another.
It just flows. And it's interesting, I think with your gymnasts and your dancers, you don't have the same roadblocks. So the standard roadblocks that we run into are lack of mobility, so you can't get into the positions that you need to get into, and then lack of control and activation. So you're restricted from getting into positions, and then also you just aren't very good at controlling. The dancey people, they have neither of those problems.
No.
So you can actually get them into the right positions pretty quickly, and you can they're much more likely, in my experience, to be good to go for load.
Yeah.
You're going to start, you can maybe start at week 3 starting to push them.
Yeah.
Whereas, a 6'5", 13-year-old basketballer with 2 centimetres of dorsiflexion, it's going to take you, 6 weeks before you can start to do a bit of some of those load. You get some, we work around and find different ways.
Yeah.
But they're just not so beautifully loadable.
I think there's always a tipping point though with flexibility. I think And it's one thing that I was always really flexible, but then almost too flexible.
Yeah. Much better to be too tight than too flexible, yeah.
Yeah, well then I had to almost rein it in and create more stiffness because I was getting soreness and injuries because I was too flexible, and those ligaments weren't actually holding onto my joints very well. So
a bit of passive stability goes a long, long way. I talk about the tale of two Jesses. So Jess Bibby, the all-time games record holder in the history of the WNBL, so played more games than anyone else, despite missing 3 years with a catastrophic triple disc herniation from doing an inappropriate deadlift of 80 kilos off the floor.
Wow.
Yeah, and she had to have revolutionary surgery where they put electrodes into her back and cooked the discs. It was a whole thing. But if you sub out that incident of inappropriate exercise selection for her, she basically didn't get injured. Yeah, and she was so stiff, she could barely touch her knees.
Yeah.
She was so tight. She once stood in a ditch and literally a divot on I think it was a footy ground, like a large, and the ankle wouldn't roll. She was that stiff that she just couldn't hurt herself. And then there was a tale of another Jess that I've coached who had 3 ACLs, dislocated shoulder, and she was just floppy as can be. It's just collagen. Yeah, so I think you want just enough and not a millimetre more flexibility than you need.
Yeah.
So this has been great.
Oh, yeah. I just looked at the time.
Yeah, right.
Geez, we've been talking all day.
Tell me, what would you tell a young you as an aspiring, so you've decided you want to get into this field.
Yeah.
What would you tell young you?
Oh, I've never been asked that question before.
Yeah. Take your time.
I would tell me probably 2 things stick out. The first one is not to be so aggressive. One thing I've learned over the years, being a female S&C, and there's not, there's heaps more around nowadays, and the ratio is definitely evening out, which is so good. It's great. Yeah. But early on, I probably...
To the point, we've got another Tennille in here. Did you know that?
You told me that. Bet she's cool as well.
She's cool as.
Yeah. See, there's like a sisterhood when there's another Tennille.
Yeah.
I think I tried to be a part of the boys' club too much. I think I tried to be almost too aggressive and too masculine and like rah rah, yeah. And you can still have that assertiveness, but keep your femininity. And I think that's something that took me a really long time to learn, especially being around footy clubs so much. You just get sucked into the culture of the boys' club, and it was the only way I could almost manipulate situations to get the positions I wanted, where I had to work so much harder and the spotlight was on me if I make mistakes compared to, old mate Dave next to me in the same exact role. So I sort of had to, mould myself into that sort of scenario so I wouldn't have the spotlight on me so much.
Which is be more yourself second time around.
Yeah, and it's okay to still have that femininity about it, but you can still, keeps the authority over a group for sure. And the other thing, I just wouldn't be so defensive about everything. I think I just took everything so personally, and I wasn't very good with criticism, and it just took me a really long time to just be like, dude, that's totally okay. It's totally normal. And if you're going to succeed and if you're going to be a good leader, you're going to F up along the way, and you just got to be okay with that because everyone does it. And, if you lose your job, you lose your job. Yeah. There'll be another job,
If you can get your head, I think that's a great note to finish on, because I think if you can get your head around that idea of it's okay to be wrong, and in fact that feedback is a gift.
Yeah.
Like if someone's telling me, if I'm doing a thing wrong, I want someone to tell me.
You've always been really good with that though, I think.
I've tried. I decided pretty early on that was going to be my mild superpower.
But the other thing, I was thinking about this on the way over.
I don't always nail it though.
No,
but
of course.
I try. But it's like that's kind of my single biggest thing I care about is being open, not closed.
Yeah. And I think you do a really good job of, I think you're a huge mentor for a lot of kids or students, and you do it in a way of not like, this is the way you should do it, this is the way, this is what I think you should do with your career or your programming, you almost use that intern or that student as like a learning curve for you as well as an opportunity for you to learn. I think not many leaders do that, where they downplay their own authority to be able to learn off the person in front of them.
I learn so much from my staff.
Yeah, you do a really good job of that.
Perspectives. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
This has been awesome fun, and I can't wait to come and visit you at Maribrynong as well.
Yes, please come and visit. We'd love to have you over.
Sounds awesome.
Cool.
All right, cheers, Neil.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. And before you go, hear from our alumni about the online mentorship.
I learnt the theory stuff at uni, but I didn't know how to apply it, and coming to Core Advantage was how I bridged that gap. So I knew the stuff, but I didn't know how to do the stuff.
It was something that I needed to do personally for my own development, and it's allowed me to work in elite sport for now 5 years, so it was a massive help.
I think mentorship is really important, and being able to ask questions all the time, and the Core Advantage course allows that because there is a big team of people that you can ask questions.
I get to train professional athletes every week, work really closely with professional athletes, which is awesome. A lot of the skills that I'm applying I learned through the program at Core Advantage.
It's not just something that you read and then think about and then go, oh, how does that tie into everything? It's something that practical that you can turn around and go, this is exactly how I'm going to apply it. And the concepts that you learn help you as a coach, as a professional, as a person. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely go and do it.
Semester 3 of the mentorship is now open. Apply at coreadvantage.training/mentorship.